The morning sun was just starting to rise over the city when Marcus Chen pulled his truck into the construction site. He was always the first one to arrive. That was just how Marcus did things. He liked the quiet morning moments before the rest of his crew showed up, before the noise of hammers and saws filled the air. Marcus was 42 years old and had been working construction for 20 years. He was a big man, tall and strong, with hands that were rough and weathered from years of hard work. His face had lines around his eyes from squinting in the sun, and his shoulders were broad from carrying heavy materials day after day. Most days he was covered in sawdust and dirt by lunchtime. He was the foreman now, which meant he was in charge of his crew. The men respected him because he was fair and worked just as hard as they did. Marcus never asked anyone to do something he would not do himself. When there was a difficult job, he was right there beside them, lifting and building and fixing. As Marcus walked through the construction site, he looked up at the building they were working on. It was an old theater, a beautiful place that had been built almost 100 years ago. The city had decided to turn it into a community arts center, and Marcus's company had won the contract to do the renovation work. Marcus loved this project. Most of the time, his crew built office buildings or apartment complexes. Those jobs were fine, but they were all the same. This theater was different. It had history. It had character. The stage was huge with dark red curtains that were torn and faded. The seats were old and dusty, but Marcus could see what it used to be and what it could be again. His crew started arriving around 7 in the morning. First came Joey, a young guy of 23 who was always full of energy and jokes. Then came Robert and Mike, two brothers who had been working construction their whole adult lives. Then Elena, the site supervisor, who was tough and smart and did not take nonsense from anyone. By 7:30, all 15 members of the crew were there, ready to work. They had their morning meeting, where Marcus explained what everyone would be doing that day. Some would work on the stage floor, replacing old wooden boards. Others would work on the lighting system. A few would be in the orchestra pit making repairs to the structure. Marcus assigned tasks and answered questions. He had a calm way of explaining things that made even complicated jobs seem simple. When the meeting was over, everyone grabbed their tools and got to work. The morning passed quickly. The sound of power tools echoed through the old theater. Dust floated in the beams of sunlight coming through the high windows. Marcus walked around, checking on everyone's progress, helping where he was needed, making sure the work was being done right. Around noon, Elena called for lunch break. The crew gathered in what used to be the theater's backstage area. They sat on overturned buckets and old crates, opening their lunch bags and thermoses of coffee. The backstage was cluttered with old props and equipment from the theater's past. Joey was eating his sandwich when he noticed a door he had not seen before. It was partially hidden behind an old piece of scenery. Being curious, Joey got up and pushed the door open. Behind it was a small storage room, and in the corner sat an old upright piano. "Hey guys, look at this," Joey called out. The others came over to see. The piano was covered in dust and looked like it had not been touched in years. But when Joey pressed one of the keys, it made a sound. Not a perfect sound, but a sound nonetheless. "This thing still works," Joey said with a grin. He started pressing keys randomly, making noise more than music. A few other guys joined in, banging on the keys and laughing. Marcus heard the commotion and walked over to see what was happening. When he saw the piano, he stopped. His expression changed in a way that was hard to describe. His eyes seemed to focus on something far away, like he was remembering something from a long time ago. Joey noticed Marcus standing there. "Hey boss, you look like you've seen a ghost or something." Marcus did not answer right away. He just stared at the piano. "What's wrong, big guy?" Joey asked. The crew had started calling Marcus Big Guy because of his size, and the nickname had stuck. "You play piano or something?" The question hung in the air. Marcus opened his mouth, then closed it again. He had not talked about this part of his life in so many years that he almost did not know how to start. "Come on, Marcus," Robert said with a friendly smile. "Don't tell me you've been hiding some secret talent from us." "Yeah, play something," Mike added. "Show us what you got." The rest of the crew joined in, laughing and encouraging him. It was all good-natured teasing. None of them really expected Marcus to sit down and play. They were just having fun during their lunch break. But Marcus was not laughing. He was looking at that piano like it was a door to the past, a door he had kept locked for 20 years. Marcus had grown up in a small apartment with his mother and younger sister. His father had left when Marcus was young, so his mother raised them alone. She worked as a cleaning lady, working night shifts in office buildings. Money was always tight. There were many nights when his mother came home exhausted, her hands red and sore from scrubbing floors. But his mother had always loved music. Even though they could not afford much, she had managed to buy an old keyboard from a thrift store when Marcus was 7 years old. She had seen something in him, some natural ability that she wanted to encourage. Marcus took to the piano like he was born to play it. His fingers seemed to know where to go. His teacher, an elderly woman who gave lessons for cheap in her living room, said Marcus was special. She said he had a gift. By the time Marcus was in high school, he was winning competitions. He played in recitals and concerts. His teacher entered him in a statewide competition when he was 17, and he won first place. The prize was a full scholarship to a prestigious music conservatory. Marcus would never forget the day he got that acceptance letter. His mother had cried tears of joy. His sister had hugged him and told him how proud she was. His teacher had said that he could have a real career, that he could play in concert halls around the world. Everything was perfect. Everything was going according to plan. Then, 2 months before Marcus was supposed to start at the conservatory, his father came back. He showed up at their apartment after being gone for 15 years. He said he wanted to be part of the family again. He said he had changed. Marcus's mother, who had a kind heart despite everything, gave him another chance. For 3 weeks, it seemed like maybe things could work out. Then one day, Marcus came home from school and found his mother sitting at the kitchen table crying. His father was gone again, and this time he had taken all the money they had been saving. Every penny. A week later, Marcus's mother collapsed at work. The doctor said it was exhaustion and stress, but they also found something else. She was sick, very sick. She needed treatment, and treatment cost money. A lot of money. Marcus's sister was only 14. She needed to finish high school. She had dreams of becoming a teacher. Someone had to take care of her. Someone had to pay the medical bills. Someone had to work. Marcus made a choice. He called the conservatory and told them he could not accept the scholarship. He called his mother's brother, his Uncle Ray, who owned a small construction company. He asked if there was a job available. Uncle Ray said yes. Marcus started the next week. He was 18 years old, and instead of walking into a music conservatory, he was walking onto a construction site with a tool belt and work boots. That was 24 years ago. Marcus had never touched a piano again. Well, that was not exactly true. He had bought a small electronic keyboard years later, and he kept it in his bedroom. Sometimes late at night when everyone was asleep, he would put on headphones and play, just for himself, just to remember. But he never told anyone, not his coworkers. Not even his own daughter knew that her father had once been talented enough to earn a scholarship to one of the best music schools in the country. Now standing in this old theater with his crew watching him, Marcus felt all those memories rushing back. The piano sitting in that dusty storage room looked a bit like the one his mother had bought him all those years ago. "I used to play," Marcus finally said. His voice was quiet. "A long time ago." The teasing stopped. The crew could tell this was something real, something that mattered. "Really?" Joey asked, his voice softer now. "Like seriously play? Or just a few songs?" Marcus did not answer with words. Instead, he walked slowly toward the piano. His heavy work boots made soft sounds on the old floor. He stood in front of the piano for a moment, then slowly pulled off his work gloves. His hands were calloused and scarred, hands that had spent 2 decades building things. He sat down on the dusty piano bench. It creaked under his weight. He looked down at the keys, and for a moment, he was not a 42-year-old construction foreman. He was 18 again, sitting at a piano with his whole future ahead of him. The crew had gone completely quiet. They could sense that something important was about to happen, even if they did not understand what it was. Marcus lifted his hands and placed them gently on the keys. He closed his eyes. He took a deep breath. And then, after 24 years of silence, after 2 decades of buried dreams and unspoken regrets, Marcus began to play. The first notes filled the old theater like water filling an empty glass. The sound was clear and beautiful, echoing off the high ceiling and old walls. Marcus's fingers moved across the keys with a skill that seemed impossible for a man who spent his days swinging hammers and carrying lumber. He played a piece by Chopin, a nocturne that he had learned when he was 16. His fingers remembered every note, every subtle change in rhythm and volume. The music flowed out of him like it had been waiting all these years to be released. The crew stood frozen. Joey's mouth literally hung open. Robert and Mike looked at each other in disbelief. Elena, who was usually tough in all business, had her hand over her mouth. The other workers, who had been eating their lunches or taking breaks in different parts of the theater, started coming closer, drawn by the unexpected sound of piano music. Marcus played with his eyes closed. He was not thinking about his crew or the construction site or anything else. He was somewhere else entirely, somewhere he had not let himself go in a very long time. He was back in his teacher's living room, playing for her while she smiled and nodded. He was on stage at that statewide competition, feeling the lights on his face and his mother in the audience. He was in his bedroom late at night playing softly so no one would hear. The music told a story. It told of dreams and sacrifice. It told of a young man who had given up everything he wanted to take care of the people he loved. It told of years of hard work and silent longing. It told of a part of Marcus that had never died, even though he had tried to bury it. When Marcus finished the piece, the final notes hung in the air for a moment before fading away. Then there was silence. Complete, total silence. Marcus opened his eyes. He looked down at his hands on the keys. These rough, working hands that had just created something beautiful. For a moment he felt embarrassed. What had he done? Why had he let them see this private part of himself? Then the applause started. It began with Joey, who started clapping slowly, then faster. Then everyone joined in. The entire crew, about 20 people now, including workers from other parts of the building, were clapping and cheering. Marcus stood up from the piano bench, his face flushed. He was not used to this kind of attention. He was just a construction worker. He was just a guy who built things and made sure his crew had everything they needed. But as he looked at the faces of his crew, he saw something he had not expected. They were not looking at him with pity or confusion. They were looking at him with respect and awe and something else. Something like hope. Because if Marcus could have this whole other part of himself that no one knew about, maybe they could too. Maybe everyone had secret dreams and hidden talents. Maybe it was never too late to let those parts of yourself see the light of day again. Joey walked up to Marcus and put a hand on his shoulder. "Boss," he said, "that was incredible. Why didn't you ever tell us you could do that?" Marcus did not know how to answer that question. How could he explain 24 years of reasons? How could he put into words the choice he had made and why he had kept quiet about it for so long? "It was a long time ago," Marcus finally said. "It's not who I am anymore." Elena stepped forward. She was a woman who did not show emotion easily, but her eyes were shiny with tears. "Maybe," she said quietly. "It's exactly who you are. You've just been hiding it." Marcus looked around at his crew, at these people he had worked with for years, and he realized something. He had spent so long keeping this part of himself separate, locked away like a secret, that he had forgotten it was still part of him. Playing that piano had not made him less of a construction worker. If anything, it made him more complete. The lunch break ended and the crew slowly went back to work. But the atmosphere had changed. People kept glancing at Marcus with new eyes, seeing him differently now. Joey could not stop talking about it, telling everyone who would listen about what their boss could do. As Marcus picked up his tools and got back to work on the theater stage, he felt something he had not felt in a very long time. He felt light, like a weight he had been carrying for years had suddenly gotten a little bit lighter. He did not know it yet, but that one moment at the piano was about to change everything. Not just for him, but for everyone around him. Sometimes all it takes is one person being brave enough to show their true self, to give other people permission to do the same. And Marcus Chen, the construction foreman who was secretly a gifted pianist, had just taken the first step on a journey he never expected to take. The afternoon sun streamed through the theater windows as Marcus worked, and for the first time in 24 years, he let himself hum while he hammered. It was a Chopin nocturne and it sounded like freedom. The rest of that day on the construction site felt different. Marcus noticed it in the way his crew looked at him, in the way they talked to him. Nothing had really changed, but everything had changed. He was still their foreman, Still the guy who checked their work and made sure things were done right. But now they knew something about him that made him seem more human somehow. Joey, in particular, could not stop talking about it. During the afternoon break, he kept bringing it up. I mean, did you guys see his hands move? It was like watching someone do magic or something. And boss, no offense, but you don't exactly look like a piano player. Marcus smiled at that. Joey was right. With his work boots and dirty jeans and tool belt, Marcus looked exactly like what he was, a construction worker. No one would guess by looking at him that he could sit down at a piano and play Chopin. How long did you play? Robert asked. He was sitting on a stack of lumber eating an apple. I mean, before you stopped? Marcus thought about it. I started when I was 7. Played until I was 18. So 11 years. Why did you stop? Mike asked. That was the question Marcus did not want to answer. He could feel all the old pain trying to come up, all the memories of that difficult time. Life happened, he said simply. Sometimes you have to make choices. The crew seemed to understand that Marcus did not want to talk about it more, so they changed the subject. But Marcus could tell they were curious. They wanted to know the story behind what they had seen. When the workday ended and everyone was packing up their tools, Joey had an idea. He had recorded Marcus playing on his phone. Boss, Joey said, would it be okay if I posted this online? I mean, it's really good. People should see it. Marcus felt uncomfortable with the idea. He was a private person. He did not like attention. The thought of strangers watching him play made him anxious. I don't know, Joey, it was just for fun. Come on, Joey said. It's amazing. Trust me, people will love it. Marcus hesitated. Part of him wanted to say no, to keep this private like he had kept it private for 24 years. But another part of him, a part he had forgotten existed, wanted to say yes. That part remembered what it felt like to share music with people, to create something beautiful and let others experience it. Okay, Marcus finally said, but keep it simple. Don't make a big deal out of it, Joey grinned. You got it, boss. That night, Marcus drove home to his small house on the edge of the city. He lived alone now. His daughter Sarah was 19 and away at college. His wife had passed away 5 years ago from cancer. It was just Marcus and his memories most nights. He made himself dinner, something simple, and sat at his kitchen table. He thought about the piano, about playing again after so many years. His fingers still remembered. That surprised him. He thought maybe he would have forgotten, that the skill would have faded away, but it was still there, buried deep, but not gone. After dinner, Marcus went to his bedroom. In the corner, covered with a sheet, was his electronic keyboard. He had not played it in months. Sometimes he would go weeks or even months without touching it, especially after his wife died. It hurt too much to play then, reminded him of too many things he had lost. But tonight, Marcus pulled the sheet off the keyboard. He plugged it in and put on his headphones. He sat down and started to play. Not Chopin this time, but something else, a jazz standard his mother used to love. He played it softly, gently, letting the music fill his head through the headphones. As he played, Marcus thought about his mother. She had died 3 years ago at the age of 68. She had beaten the illness that had struck her when Marcus was 18, had lived to see her son grow up and her granddaughter born. But she had never seen Marcus play piano again after he gave up the conservatory. He had visited her in the hospital near the end, and she had held his hand with her weak grip. Did you ever regret it? She had asked him. Giving up music for us? Marcus had told her no, and it was the truth. He did not regret taking care of his family. He did not regret the life he had built. But there was still something there, some small ache that never quite went away. Not regret exactly, but loss. The loss of what might have been. His mother had seemed to understand. You have such a big heart, Marcus, she had said. I hope someday you let yourself have both things, the practical and the beautiful. You deserve both. Marcus played for an hour that night, longer than he had played in years. When he finally stopped, his fingers ached a little. They were not used to it anymore. But it was a good ache, the kind that came from using muscles that had been asleep for too long. The next morning, Marcus woke up to his phone buzzing. He had 15 text messages and 6 missed calls. That was strange. Marcus usually got maybe 1 or 2 texts a day, usually from his daughter or from Elena about work stuff. He picked up his phone and started reading. The messages were from members of his crew, from his sister who lived 2 states away, from old friends he had not talked to in years. They all said basically the same thing. I saw the video. This is incredible. Why didn't you tell us, video? Marcus felt his stomach drop. He opened his social media app, something he rarely used, and there it was. Joey had posted the video of Marcus playing the piano. The caption read, "Our foreman is secretly a concert pianist. This is what sacrifice looks like. This is what real strength looks like." The video had been posted about 12 hours ago. It already had 200,000 views, and the number kept going up as Marcus watched. 205,000. 210,000. Marcus felt panic rising in his chest. This was not what he wanted. He did not want hundreds of thousands of strangers watching him, knowing about him. He quickly got dressed and drove to the construction site even though it was still early. Joey was already there when Marcus arrived. The young man looked excited and nervous at the same time. "Boss, I'm sorry. I didn't think it would blow up like that. But look at the comments. Everyone loves it." Marcus was not ready to look at comments. He was still trying to process what was happening. "Joey, this is too much. I'm just a regular guy. This kind of attention—" "But that's exactly why people love it," Joey interrupted. "You're a regular guy who has this amazing talent. You gave up your dreams to take care of your family. That's beautiful, man. That's inspiring." Elena arrived a few minutes later. She had seen the video too. "Marcus, my phone has been ringing all morning. A local news station wants to interview you. The newspaper wants to do a story, and—" She paused, looking at a note she had written. "The director of this arts center we're building wants to talk to you." Marcus sat down on a stack of lumber. This was happening too fast. Yesterday morning he was just a construction foreman. Now he was some kind of viral sensation. It did not make sense. The rest of the crew arrived and they all had something to say about the video. Some thought it was great. Others could tell Marcus was uncomfortable and tried to be supportive. By lunchtime, the video had over 1 million views. Marcus's phone rang. It was his sister, Linda. She was crying when he answered. "Marcus, I just saw it. I had no idea you still played. I thought you gave it up completely. Why didn't you tell me?" "I don't know," Marcus said honestly. "It felt like something from another life. It didn't seem important." "Not important?" Linda's voice was thick with emotion. "Marcus, you gave up everything for me and Mom. I became a teacher because you paid for me to finish school. I have my life because you sacrificed yours, and you never complained, not once. But you kept playing all this time. Just sometimes, late at night. It wasn't a big deal." "It is a big deal," Linda said firmly. "Mom would be so proud. She always felt guilty that you gave up the conservatory. She talked about it until the end. She wanted you to go back to music somehow." After Marcus hung up with his sister, he sat in the theater's quiet backstage area. Workers were doing their jobs around him, but he barely noticed. He was thinking about what Linda had said about what their mother had wanted. His phone buzzed again. This time it was a number he did not recognize. He almost did not answer, but something made him pick up. "Hello? Is this Marcus Chen?" The voice was professional, friendly. "Yes, this is Marcus." "Mr. Chen, my name is Patricia Williams. I'm the director of the Riverside Community Arts Center, the facility you're currently helping to renovate. I saw your video, and I have to say I'm absolutely moved by your story and your talent." Marcus did not know what to say. "Thank you," he managed. "Mr. Chen, we're having a gala opening for the center in 3 months. It's going to be a big event, with donors and community members. We'll have performances throughout the evening to showcase what the center will offer. I would be honored if you would consider performing at the gala." Marcus felt his heart start to race. Perform in front of an audience? He had not done that in 24 years. "I don't think I'm ready for that, Ms. Williams. I appreciate the offer, but I'm not a professional anymore. I just work construction." "Mr. Chen," Patricia said gently, "I watched that video. You may work in construction, but you're still a musician. That doesn't just go away. And your story is exactly what this art center is about. We want to show the community that art is for everyone, that it's never too late to reconnect with your creativity. You would be perfect." "Can I think about it?" Marcus asked. "Of course. Take all the time you need. But I hope you'll say yes." When Marcus hung up, he saw Elena standing nearby. She had obviously heard at least part of the conversation. "Was that about performing?" she asked. Marcus nodded. They want me to play at the opening gala. But I can't do that. I'm too rusty. I'd embarrass myself. Elena sat down next to him. She was quiet for a moment before speaking. You know, I gave up something too. I was going to be a doctor. I was in pre-med, had good grades, the whole thing. Then my mom got sick and I had to drop out to take care of her. By the time she got better, I couldn't afford to go back. So I went to trade school instead, learned construction management. Marcus looked at her surprised. He had worked with Elena for 5 years and never knew this. I don't regret it, Elena continued. I love what I do now. But there's always that little voice that wonders what if, you know. What if I had become a doctor? Would I be happier? Would my life be better? She turned to look at Marcus. I think that's why your video is touching so many people. Everyone has dreams they put aside. Everyone wonders what if. But you actually have a chance to answer that question. That's rare. Marcus thought about what Elena said for the rest of the day. By evening, the video had 3 million views. Marcus had dozens of messages from people he had not heard from in years. His old music teacher from when he was a kid had somehow found him and sent a long email about how proud she was. One message stood out. It was from a man named David Chen, no relation despite the same last name. He was a professional pianist, someone whose career Marcus had followed years ago, reading about his concerts and recordings. The message was simple. I saw your video. You have real talent even after all these years. If you ever want to talk about music or get back into playing seriously, I'd be happy to help. You clearly never stopped being a musician. That night, Marcus drove to the cemetery where his mother was buried. It was something he did sometimes when he needed to think, when he needed to feel close to her. He sat on the grass next to her headstone and talked to her like she was still alive. I don't know what to do, Mom, he said quietly. Everything is changing so fast. People are looking at me differently. They want me to perform, to be something I haven't been in so long. I'm scared. What if I'm not good enough anymore? What if I let everyone down? The evening wind rustled through the trees. Marcus sat there for a long time, just being quiet, just being with his memories. He thought about the choice he made when he was 18. He had given up the conservatory to take care of his family, and he would make that same choice again if he had to. But that did not mean the music had to stay buried forever. Maybe his mother was right. Maybe he could have both things, the practical and the beautiful. When Marcus got home that night, he did not hide his keyboard in the corner. Instead, he set it up in his living room where he could see it every day. He sat down and started to play, and this time he did not use headphones. He let the sound fill his house, let it be heard. He played for 2 hours, his fingers slowly remembering more and more. Chopin and Mozart and Bach, jazz standards and ballads. Music that had been locked inside him for 24 years, finally being set free. When he finally stopped, his hands were tired but happy. Marcus looked at his phone and saw a text from his daughter, Sarah. She had seen the video too. The message made Marcus's eyes water. Dad, I never knew. I'm so proud of you. Not just for your talent, but for everything you gave up for our family. You're my hero. Can you teach me to play when I come home for break? Marcus typed back. I would love that. He looked around his empty house, at the keyboard in his living room, at his rough working hands that could build buildings and play beautiful music. And for the first time in a very long time, Marcus Chen felt complete. He did not have to choose between being a construction worker and being a musician. He could be both. He had always been both. The video kept spreading. By the end of the week, it had 10 million views. Messages poured in from around the world, from people sharing their own stories of dreams they had put aside, of talents they had hidden, of the sacrifices they had made for the people they loved. Marcus read many of these messages, and he began to understand something important. This was not really about him. It was about all the people who saw themselves in his story. It was about giving people permission to remember the parts of themselves they had forgotten or hidden away. Maybe, Marcus thought, he should perform at that gala. Maybe his mother had been trying to tell him something all along. That sacrifice did not mean you had to give up everything forever. That taking care of others did not mean forgetting to take care of yourself. That it was never ever too late to come home to who you really were. Marcus picked up his phone and called Patricia Williams, the Arts Center director. When she answered, he took a deep breath and said the words that would change everything. Ms. Williams? This is Marcus Chen. I've thought about your offer. And yes, I'll perform at the gala. On the other end of the line, Patricia let out a happy sound. Mr. Chen, that's wonderful. This is going to be so special. After he hung up, Marcus sat quietly in his living room. He had just agreed to do something that terrified him. But he had also just agreed to do something that felt right, maybe for the first time in 24 years. He looked at the keyboard and smiled. 3 months. He had 3 months to prepare, to practice, to get ready. 3 months to become the musician he used to be. The musician he never really stopped being. Marcus Chen, construction foreman and secret pianist, was about to step back into the light. And he was ready. The news that Marcus had agreed to perform at the gala spread quickly through the construction site. His crew was excited, proud even. They felt like they were part of something special now. The theater they were working on was not just another job anymore. It was the place where their foreman was going to share his gift with the world. "We need to make this place perfect," Joey said during the morning meeting the next day. The acoustics, the stage, everything. "This is for Marcus," the crew agreed. They started working with extra care, paying attention to every detail. The way sound traveled through the space, the wood they used for the stage floor, the position of every light and every seat. This was personal now. Marcus watched his crew work with new dedication, and it touched him. These were good people, people who had his back. But as the days passed, Marcus also felt the weight of what he had agreed to do. 3 months had seemed like a long time when he said yes. But as the first week passed, then the second, Marcus realized how much work he had ahead of him. His hands were the first problem. After 24 years of construction work, his hands were strong but rough. The calluses that helped him grip tools and handle lumber made it harder to feel the piano keys properly. His fingers were stiff from years of gripping hammers and wrenches. Marcus started practicing every night after work. 2 hours, sometimes 3. He would sit at his keyboard, working through scales and exercises, trying to rebuild the flexibility and speed his fingers once had. It was frustrating. His mind remembered how to play, but his hands needed time to catch up. After a week of intense practice, Marcus woke up one morning with his hands cramping. The pain shot through his fingers and wrists. He could barely hold his coffee cup. At the construction site, he tried to hide it, but Elena noticed. "Your hands," she said. "What's wrong?" Marcus admitted he had been pushing too hard with the piano practice. Elena insisted he see a doctor. The doctor, a young woman named Dr. Patel, examined his hands carefully. "You have tendinitis," she said. "Inflammation of the tendons from overuse. You're asking your hands to do something they're not conditioned for anymore. You need to rest them for at least a week. And then when you start practicing again, you need to do it gradually. Physical therapy would help too." A week without practicing felt like forever to Marcus. The gala was getting closer and he was losing valuable time. But he had no choice. He rested his hands and started physical therapy. The therapist, an older man named George, had worked with musicians before. "Your hands have to learn to be 2 different things," George explained. "Strong for construction, flexible for piano. It's possible, but you need to be smart about it. Stretch before you play, ice after. And never push through pain." While Marcus's hands healed, he did something he had not done in years. He started studying music theory again, reading about the pieces he wanted to perform. He listened to recordings of great pianists analyzing their technique and interpretation. He could not play, but he could learn. His daughter Sarah called him during this time. She was on spring break from college and wanted to come home. "I want to watch you practice, Dad," she said. "I want to understand this part of you I never knew about." When Sarah came home, Marcus was nervous. His daughter was 19 now, smart and independent. She had her mother's eyes and smile. Marcus had always been close to her, but he had never shared his musical side with her. That felt like opening a door to a room she had never seen before. Sarah sat on the couch while Marcus played for her. His hands were better now, and he could practice for short periods. He played a simple piece first, something gentle. "Dad," Sarah said when he finished. "That's beautiful. Why did you never tell me you could do this?" Marcus tried to explain. It felt like it belonged to a different person. A younger person who existed before you were born. Before your mother got sick. Before a lot of things. But you kept playing, Sarah pointed out, even if it was just for yourself. That means it was still important to you. Sarah was right. Marcus had kept that small flame alive all these years, even when no one could see it. That had to mean something. "Will you teach me?" Sarah asked. I always wanted to learn piano, but I never asked because I didn't know you played. So Marcus started teaching his daughter. It was clumsy at first. He was not a professional teacher and Sarah was a complete beginner. But there was something special about sharing this with her, about passing on something that had been such a big part of his life. As the weeks passed, Marcus settled into a routine. He worked at the construction site during the day, practiced piano in the evening, and spent time with Sarah when she was home. His hands got stronger and more flexible. The music started coming back to him more easily, but Marcus also started having doubts. Late at night after practicing, he would lie in bed and worry. What if he was not good enough? What if people came to the gala expecting something amazing and he disappointed them? The video had made him seem like some kind of hidden genius, but Marcus knew the truth. He was rusty. He had not performed in front of an audience in 24 years. He could mess up. He could fail. One evening, about 6 weeks before the gala, Marcus was practicing when his phone rang. It was David Chen, the professional pianist who had sent him a message weeks ago. They had exchanged a few emails, but this was the first time David had called. "Marcus, I hope I'm not interrupting," David said. "I wanted to check in and see how your preparation is going." Marcus admitted his fears. He told David about the hand pain, about feeling rusty, about his worry that he would let everyone down. David listened patiently. Then he said something that stuck with Marcus. "You know what makes a great performance? It's not playing every note perfectly. It's playing with truth. People connect with honesty, with emotion, with the story behind the music. You have a powerful story, Marcus. You have decades of life experience that young conservatory graduates don't have. That's your strength. Don't try to be a concert pianist. Just be yourself and play from your heart." After that conversation, Marcus felt a little better. He stopped obsessing over every tiny mistake and started focusing on what the music meant to him. Each piece he chose for the gala was connected to a memory, to a moment in his life. The Chopin Nocturne reminded him of his mother. A jazz piece reminded him of his wife, who loved jazz. A contemporary piece reminded him of hope for the future. At the construction site, the theater was coming together beautifully. The crew had restored the stage to its original glory. The seats were refurbished. The lighting system was state-of-the-art. And in the center of the stage, they positioned a beautiful grand piano that the Arts Center had purchased for the space. Marcus would sometimes stand on the stage after everyone else had gone home, looking out at the empty seats, imagining them filled with people. The thought still scared him, but it also excited him. This was really happening. About a month before the gala, a local music school reached out to Marcus. They had seen his video and his story. The director, a woman named Mrs. Henderson, asked if Marcus would be interested in teaching piano on weekends. "We have students from all kinds of backgrounds," Mrs. Henderson explained when she came to meet Marcus at the construction site. "Some can afford lessons easily, others can't. Your story resonates with families who struggle financially. You would be an inspiration to them, proof that talent and dedication matter more than money." Marcus was surprised by the offer. "I'm not a professional teacher," he said. "I just started teaching my daughter, and that's different." "Sometimes the best teachers are the ones who understand struggle," Mrs. Henderson replied. "The ones who know what it's like to have to make hard choices. Think about it." Marcus did think about it. That night he called his sister Linda. She was a teacher after all. She would understand whether this was a good idea. "Marcus, you should do it," Linda said immediately. "You know why Mom pushed you to play piano when we were kids? Because she believed art could change lives. She believed everyone deserved beauty and creativity, not just rich people. You teaching kids who can't normally afford lessons? That's honoring Mom's memory." The next day Marcus called Mrs. Henderson back and said yes, he would start teaching after the gala, one step at a time. As the gala approached, more opportunities started coming to Marcus. A local restaurant asked if he would play during dinner service one night a week. A community center wanted him to give a talk about following dreams later in life. A documentary filmmaker wanted to follow his story. It was overwhelming. Marcus had gone from a private person who kept his music hidden to someone people wanted to hear from, to learn from. He was not sure he was ready for all of this. Elena noticed Marcus's stress during work one day. "You okay, boss?" she asked. "You seem distracted." Marcus admitted he was feeling the pressure. "Everyone wants something from me now. Everyone has expectations. What if I can't meet them? What if I'm not as special as people think I am? Elena smiled. Marcus, you're missing the point. People don't think you're special because you're the best pianist in the world. They think you're special because you're real. You're someone who worked hard, who sacrificed, who kept a piece of himself alive even when times were tough. That's what resonates with people. Just be who you are. That's enough. 2 weeks before the gala, something unexpected happened. The video of Marcus playing had reached someone from his past. His old teacher from when he was a teenager, Mrs. Kowalski, sent him a message. She was 83 years old now, living in a retirement home across the country. Marcus, I knew you were special when you were just a boy. Her message said, I cried when you had to give up your scholarship. I always wondered what happened to you. Seeing you play again after all these years, it's like watching a flower bloom after a long winter. Please know how proud I am of you, and please know that the choice you made showed more character than any concert performance ever could. Marcus video called Mrs. Kowalski that evening. Seeing her face, older now but with the same kind eyes, brought back so many memories. They talked for over an hour. She gave him advice about the pieces he was planning to play. She reminded him of things he had forgotten about technique and interpretation. But Marcus, she said at the end of their conversation, remember what I always told you. Music is not about impressing people. It's about connecting with them. It's about saying things that words can't say. You do that and everything else will fall into place. The week of the gala arrived. Marcus took time off from the construction site to focus on final preparations. He practiced every day, but not too much. He rested his hands. He ate well and slept as much as he could, though nerves made sleeping difficult. His crew was excited. They had all bought tickets to the gala. They were bringing their families. Joey had made t-shirts that said Team Marcus and handed them out to everyone. Marcus was embarrassed but also touched by their support. The night before the gala, Marcus could not sleep at all. He got up at 2 in the morning and drove to the theater. He had a key because he was the foreman. He let himself in and walked through the dark building to the stage. The grand piano sat there in the moonlight coming through the windows. Marcus sat down at the bench. He did not turn on any lights. He just sat there in the darkness, his hands resting on the keys. He thought about his journey. From a 7-year-old boy with a cheap keyboard, to an 18-year-old with a scholarship he had to refuse, to a 42-year-old man who had built a life with his hands. He thought about his mother, his wife, his daughter. He thought about all the buildings he had constructed, all the honest work he had done. And he realized something important. He was not going back to being who he was at 18. That person was gone. He was moving forward as who he was now. A construction worker who played piano. A man who understood sacrifice and hard work and loss and love. A person who was complicated and real and flawed and trying his best. Marcus placed his hands on the keys and began to play. In the empty theater in the middle of the night, he played for himself. Not practicing, not preparing. Just playing. Just being. The music filled the darkness and Marcus felt peace. Tomorrow night, this theater would be full of people. Tomorrow night, he would be nervous and worried and probably make mistakes. But tonight, it was just him and the piano and the music that had always been part of his soul. When Marcus finished playing, he sat quietly for a few minutes. Then he stood up, covered the piano carefully, and walked out of the theater. He drove home as the sun was starting to rise. He had a big day ahead of him, the biggest day in a very long time. Marcus Chen went home, took a shower, and tried to rest. In a few hours, everything would change. He was ready. At least he hoped he was ready. But ready or not, it was happening. After 24 years, Marcus was going to step back onto a stage and show the world who he really was. All of who he was. The day of the gala arrived with bright sunshine and clear blue skies. Marcus woke up after only a few hours of restless sleep. His stomach was tied in knots. He had been nervous before, but this was different. This was real. Tonight, he would stand on that stage in front of 500 people and play piano for the first time in 24 years. He tried to eat breakfast but could only manage coffee and a piece of toast. His hands were shaking slightly. Not from the tendonitis anymore, but from pure nerves. He looked at his hands, these rough, scarred hands that had built so many things. Tonight, they needed to create something beautiful. His phone started buzzing early. Messages from his crew, from his sister, from his daughter. Everyone was wishing him luck, telling him they believed in him. Sarah sent a photo of herself getting ready for the event. She looked beautiful, grown up. Marcus felt a surge of love and pride. At noon, Marcus drove to the theater. He wanted to be there early, to walk through the space to spend time with the piano before the crowds arrived. Patricia Williams, the Arts Center director, was already there overseeing final preparations. "Marcus," she said warmly when she saw him. "How are you feeling?" "Terrified," Marcus admitted. Patricia laughed gently. "That's normal. Every performer gets nervous. But I want you to remember something. Everyone coming tonight is on your side. They're not here to judge you. They're here to support you and celebrate with you." Marcus nodded, trying to let her words sink in. He walked onto the stage and looked out at the empty theater. In a few hours, every seat would be filled. The thought made his heart race. He sat down at the grand piano and lifted the cover from the keys. The piano had been tuned perfectly. He played a few scales, just warming up, getting used to the feel of this particular instrument. It was beautiful, much nicer than his keyboard at home. "Can I practice for a bit?" Marcus asked Patricia. "Of course. The theater is yours. Take all the time you need." Marcus practiced for 2 hours, not his full program, just pieces of it. He worked on the parts that worried him, the difficult passages where his fingers might stumble. But mostly, he just played, trying to get comfortable with the space and the piano and the knowledge of what was coming. Around 3 o'clock, Marcus left the theater to go home and get ready. He needed to shower to put on the tuxedo that Patricia had helped him rent. He had not worn a tuxedo since his wedding, and that felt like a lifetime ago. As Marcus showered and dressed, he tried to calm his mind. He thought about what David Chen had told him. Play with truth. Play from the heart. Don't try to be perfect. Just be real. Marcus looked at himself in the mirror. The tuxedo fit well, but it looked strange on him. He was used to seeing himself in work clothes, in jeans and t-shirts and boots. This fancy version of himself felt like a costume. But maybe that was okay. Maybe tonight was about showing that you could be more than one thing. You could be a construction worker in boots and a pianist in a tuxedo. You could be both. Marcus drove back to the theater at 5 o'clock. The gala started at 7, but he wanted to be there early. When he arrived, the parking lot was already filling up with cars. Workers were putting up decorations, setting up tables with food and drinks for the reception area. Backstage, Marcus found a small dressing room with his name on the door. That felt surreal. He had a dressing room like a real performer. Inside, there were flowers and cards from well-wishers. One card was from his crew. It said, "We're proud of you, boss. You've got this. Team Marcus forever." Marcus felt tears prick his eyes. These people believed in him. He could not let them down. At 6:30, people started arriving. Marcus could hear the sound of voices and laughter from backstage. The theater was filling up. His heart pounded harder. 30 more minutes. Just 30 more minutes, and then it would be time. There was a knock on his dressing room door. "Come in," Marcus said. It was Sarah, his daughter. She was wearing a beautiful blue dress, and she looked so much like her mother that Marcus felt his breath catch. "Dad," she said, walking over to hug him. "You look so handsome." "I'm so nervous," Marcus admitted. "I don't know if I can do this." Sarah took his hands in hers. "Dad, do you remember when Mom was sick? When she was in the hospital for all those months? You went to work every day, came to the hospital every night, took care of me, and never once complained. You were so strong. This is nothing compared to that. You can do this." Marcus hugged his daughter tightly. She was right. He had been through harder things than playing piano in front of people. He could do this. Another knock on the door. This time it was Joey and the rest of his crew. They crowded into the small dressing room, all dressed up in their nice clothes. Some of them Marcus barely recognized without their work gear on. "Boss," Joey said, "we just wanted to see you before you go on. We wanted to tell you something." He looked around at the others and they all nodded. "Working with you has been the best job any of us have ever had. You treat us with respect. You work as hard as we do. You're a good man, and watching you do this tonight, it makes us want to be better. It makes us want to reach for our own dreams." Robert stepped forward. "I've been working construction for 20 years, and I always thought that was it. That was all I would ever be. But seeing you, man, it makes me think maybe I could go back to school, get my contractor's license like I always wanted to." Mike added, "My kid wants to be an artist, and I've been telling him to be practical, to choose something safe. But after seeing your video, After seeing you tonight, I'm going to tell him to follow his heart. Because that's what you did, even if it took you 24 years to do it. Each member of the crew shared something similar. How Marcus's story had inspired them, had made them look at their own lives differently. Marcus listened, overwhelmed by emotion. He had not realized that his choice to play that day, to share his secret, would affect people this way. "Thank you," Marcus said when they finished. "All of you. For believing in me. For being my friends, not just my crew. For making this theater perfect. I'm going to play my heart out for you tonight." They hugged him, clapped him on the back, and filed out of the dressing room. Marcus was alone again, but he felt stronger now. He was not doing this alone. He had his crew, his daughter, his sister, who was somewhere in that audience. He had all the people who had supported him and believed in him. Patricia came to his door at 5 minutes to 7. "It's time, Marcus. Are you ready?" Marcus took a deep breath. "As ready as I'll ever be." He followed Patricia to the side of the stage. He could hear the audience now, hundreds of voices talking and laughing. The theater was full. Through a gap in the curtain, Marcus could see people finding their seats. He spotted his crew, sitting together in a big group, all wearing their Team Marcus t-shirts under their nice jackets. He saw Sarah sitting with his sister Linda and her family. He saw neighbors from his street, people from the community, strangers who had come because they heard his story. Patricia walked onto the stage and the audience quieted down. She welcomed everyone to the Riverside Community Arts Center's opening gala. She talked about the mission of the center, about making art accessible to everyone in the community. Then she started talking about Marcus. She told his story, about the scholarship he gave up, about the 24 years of construction work, about the video that had touched millions of people. She talked about sacrifice and dreams and second chances. "Ladies and gentlemen," Patricia said, "it is my great honor to introduce Marcus Chen." The audience erupted in applause. Marcus felt his legs go weak. This was it. This was really happening. He walked onto the stage, the spotlight hitting him, making it hard to see the audience. The applause seemed to go on forever. Marcus walked to the piano and sat down on the bench. His hands were shaking. He could see them trembling as he placed them on his lap. He looked out at the audience, at all these people watching him, waiting for him. Then he found Sarah's face in the crowd. She was smiling at him, giving him a thumbs up. He saw his crew cheering and clapping. He saw his sister with tears already running down her face. Marcus took a deep breath and placed his hands on the keys. The audience went completely silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Marcus closed his eyes. He thought about his mother, about how she used to sit beside him when he practiced as a child, encouraging him. He thought about his wife, about how she used to love listening to him play late at night when he thought everyone was asleep. He thought about all the years of hard work, of sacrifice, of keeping this part of himself hidden. And then Marcus began to play. He started with the Chopin Nocturne, the same piece he had played that first day at the construction site. His fingers found the keys and the music began to flow. The nervousness started to fade. The audience disappeared. It was just Marcus and the piano and the music. He played with everything he had. Every note carried weight, carried meaning. This was not just a performance. This was 24 years of silence being broken. This was a man reclaiming a part of himself he thought was lost forever. The Chopin piece ended, and the audience applauded warmly. But Marcus did not stop. He moved directly into the next piece, a jazz standard. This one had a different feel, more playful, more free. His hands danced across the keys. He could feel the music in his chest, in his heart. Then he played a modern piece, something contemporary and emotional. And finally, he played the piece he had written for his mother, the one he had never performed for anyone. As he played it, he talked softly, explaining what each section meant. The first movement was about her strength, raising 2 kids alone. The second movement was about sacrifice, about her working night shifts so her children could have better lives. The third movement was about love, the kind of love that gives everything and asks for nothing in return. By the time Marcus finished, there was not a dry eye in the theater. The audience sat in stunned silence for a moment, just absorbing what they had experienced. Then the applause started, slowly at first, then building to a roar. People stood up, giving Marcus a standing ovation that seemed to shake the walls. Marcus stood up from the piano, overwhelmed. He had done it. He had actually done it. He bowed, tears running down his face, and the applause continued. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. The audience would not stop clapping. Then something unexpected happened. Joey jumped up on the stage, followed by the rest of the crew. They surrounded Marcus, lifting him up on their shoulders like he had just won a championship. The audience loved it, cheering even louder. When they finally set Marcus down, Sarah ran onto the stage and threw her arms around him. "Dad, that was amazing. That was the most beautiful thing I've ever heard." Patricia came on stage to thank Marcus and announced that there would be a reception in the lobby. But first, she had an announcement. "Marcus, the board of directors met this week, and we want to offer you a position as artist-in-residence at the Riverside Community Arts Center. You would perform here monthly, teach classes to students who can't normally afford lessons, and help us fulfill our mission of making art accessible to everyone." The audience cheered at this announcement. Marcus could barely process what was happening. A position? He would get to keep playing? He would get to teach? "There's one condition," Patricia added with a smile. "You have to keep your construction job too, because your whole story is what makes you perfect for this role. You understand what it means to work hard, to sacrifice, to choose responsibility. That's the message we want to share." Marcus nodded, unable to speak. He did not have to choose. He could be both things. He could keep his crew, his construction work that he was proud of, and he could also have this, the music, the teaching, the sharing of his gift. The reception afterward was overwhelming. Hundreds of people wanted to talk to Marcus, to shake his hand, to thank him for inspiring them. He heard story after story of people who had given up their own dreams, who were now thinking about trying again. An elderly woman with tears in her eyes told Marcus that she had wanted to be a painter, but had become a nurse instead to support her family. "I'm 72 years old," she said. "I thought it was too late, but if you can do this at 42, maybe I can pick up a paintbrush again." A young man told Marcus that he had been working at a job he hated, too afraid to pursue his real passion for writing. "Watching you tonight, seeing your courage, it makes me want to be brave too." Through it all, Marcus's crew stayed close. They were his bodyguards, his support system, his friends. They kept checking on him, making sure he was okay, bringing him water when he needed it. Late that night, after the crowd had finally thinned out and the theater was closing, Marcus stood alone on the stage one more time. He looked out at the empty seats, still processing everything that had happened. Elena came to stand beside him. "You did it, Marcus. You really did it." "I couldn't have done it without all of you," Marcus said. "You made me brave enough to try." "No," Elena said. "You made us brave. That's the thing you don't understand yet. By showing us your whole self, by refusing to hide anymore, you gave all of us permission to be complete people too. That's bigger than just playing piano. That's changing lives." Marcus drove home that night with his daughter beside him in the truck. They did not talk much. They were both exhausted, both full of emotions they could not quite put into words. When they got home, Sarah said, "Dad, will you play something for me? Just one more piece before we go to bed?" So Marcus sat down at his keyboard in the living room, and Sarah sat beside him. He played a simple piece, a lullaby, the same one he used to play for her when she was a baby, when her mother was still alive. As Marcus played, he realized that this was what it was all about. Not the big performances or the applause or the viral videos. It was about this, sitting beside his daughter, sharing something beautiful, passing on a gift. When he finished, Sarah hugged him. "Thank you, Dad, for everything. For the sacrifices you made, for never giving up on your music even when no one knew about it, for showing me that it's never too late to be who you really are." Marcus hugged her back, holding tight to this precious person he had helped raise. "Thank you for giving me the courage to try." That night, Marcus slept deeply for the first time in weeks. No nightmares, no anxiety, just peaceful sleep, because he had faced his fear and survived. More than survived. He had triumphed. And tomorrow would be the first day of his new life. A life where he did not have to hide anymore. A life where he could be completely himself. 2 months after the gala, Marcus's life had settled into a new rhythm. It was a busy rhythm, fuller than before, but in a good way. He still woke up early every morning and went to the construction site. He was still the foreman, still in charge of his crew. That had not changed and never would. Construction work was part of who Marcus was, and he was proud of it. But now his evenings and weekends were different. On Saturday mornings, Marcus taught piano at the Riverside Community Arts Center. His students were children and teenagers from families who could not normally afford private lessons. The center provided scholarships, and Marcus taught at a reduced rate because he believed in the mission. His first student ever was a shy 10-year-old girl named Maya. She came from a single-parent home, just like Marcus had. Her mother worked 2 jobs to keep them afloat. When Maya sat down at the piano for her first lesson, her hands were shaking with nervousness. "I've never touched a piano before," Maya admitted. "What if I'm not good at it?" Marcus smiled at her. He understood that fear so well. "You know what I learned?" he told her. "Being good at something is not as important as loving it. My mother used to tell me that if you love something enough, you'll work hard at it, and that's when you get good. So let's start by seeing if you love it." He showed Maya how to sit, how to position her hands, how to find middle C. Then he taught her a simple 5-note melody. When Maya played those 5 notes, her whole face lit up. That was the moment Marcus knew she was going to be okay. Over the weeks, Marcus gained more students. He taught 15 kids now, ranging in age from 7 to 17. Each one had their own story, their own struggles, their own reasons for wanting to learn music. Marcus connected with all of them because he saw himself in them. He saw the kid who loved music but whose family could not afford expensive lessons. He saw the teenager who needed something beautiful in a difficult life. One of his students, a 16-year-old boy named James, reminded Marcus especially of his younger self. James was naturally talented, picking up difficult pieces quickly. He came from a poor neighborhood and had a lot of responsibilities at home. He had to help take care of his younger siblings while his parents worked. "Mr. Chen," James said one day after a lesson, "do you think someone like me could ever really make it as a musician? Or should I just be practical and forget about it?" Marcus looked at this young man and saw the choice he had faced at 18. The question of dreams versus responsibility, but Marcus had learned something important over the years. "James," Marcus said carefully, "being practical is important. Taking care of your family is important. But you know what I learned? Dreams don't die just because you put them aside for a while. They wait, and sometimes they come back stronger than before. So my advice is this. Do what you need to do to take care of your responsibilities, but never completely let go of your music. Keep it alive, even if it's just playing for yourself late at night, because someday you might get a second chance." James nodded slowly, taking in Marcus's words. "Is that what happened to you? You got a second chance?" "I did," Marcus said, "and I almost didn't take it because I was scared." Don't make that mistake. When your chance comes, be ready to say yes. Teaching was not the only new thing in Marcus's life. He also performed at the Arts Center once a month on a Saturday evening. These were smaller, more intimate concerts than the gala. Maybe 50 or 60 people in the audience, sitting close to the piano. Marcus played a mix of classical pieces and jazz standards, sometimes telling stories between songs about what the music meant to him. These monthly concerts became popular in the community. People looked forward to them. They were not fancy events. There were no tuxedos or evening gowns, just regular people coming to hear good music and feel something real. Marcus also started playing one evening, a week at a local restaurant called Franco's. It was a small Italian place with checkered tablecloths and candles on every table. The owner, an older man named Marco, had reached out after seeing Marcus's video. "I want live music in my restaurant," Marco had said, "but not background noise. Real music. The kind that makes people stop eating and listen. That's what you play." So every Thursday evening, Marcus would arrive at Franco's with his keyboard, set up in the corner, and play for 2 hours while people ate their pasta and drank their wine. Sometimes people would cry listening to his music. Sometimes they would applaud between pieces. Marco always gave Marcus a free meal and told him he was good for business. At the construction site, things had changed too, but in subtle ways. The crew still worked hard, still joked around, still treated Marcus like their boss, but there was a new energy among them. Several crew members had started pursuing their own dreams. Joey had enrolled in night classes at the community college to study graphic design. He brought his sketchbook to work now, drawing during lunch breaks. His talent was obvious, and Marcus encouraged him constantly. "You're really good at this, Joey," Marcus told him one day, looking at a poster design Joey had created. "You could do this professionally." "Maybe," Joey said with a shy smile. "I mean, if you can come back to music after 24 years, maybe I can become a designer at 23. Robert had started studying for his contractor's license exam. He wanted to start his own small construction company eventually. Mike's son had decided to go to art school, and Mike was working extra hours to help pay for it. Even Elena had started taking business courses online. She wanted to start her own construction management firm someday. The whole crew had been affected by Marcus's story. They had seen that it was possible to be more than one thing, to have more than one dream. They had seen that it was never too late to try. One morning at the construction site, the crew was working on a new project, an office building downtown. During the morning break, Joey showed everyone a video on his phone. It was a news story about a 60-year-old janitor in another city who had just graduated from college. She had been taking classes part-time for 12 years while working full-time. She said Marcus Chen inspired her. Joey read from the article. She said if he could go back to his music, she could finish her degree. Marcus felt overwhelmed hearing that. He had inspired someone he had never met, someone hundreds of miles away. His story was still spreading, still touching lives. It was bigger than him now. It was about something universal, something everyone could relate to. The idea that it's never too late. The idea that you don't have to choose between responsibility and dreams. The idea that sacrifice doesn't mean giving up everything forever. That weekend, Marcus had a special visitor at one of his piano lessons. David Chen, the professional pianist who had mentored Marcus over the phone, came to the art center. He was performing in the city and wanted to meet Marcus in person. David watched Marcus teach for a while, observing how he worked with the students. Afterward, they went for coffee. "You're a natural teacher," David told Marcus. "The way you connect with those kids, the way you make them feel safe to try and fail and try again, that's a gift." "I just try to be the kind of teacher I needed when I was their age," Marcus said. "That's exactly what makes you good at it," David replied. He paused, stirring his coffee. "Marcus, I want to ask you something. Would you consider applying to teach at the conservatory? Part-time. Maybe 1 or 2 classes a semester. We need teachers who understand that music is not just about technique. It's about heart. It's about perseverance." "You could teach that." Marcus was stunned. "The conservatory? But I never even went there. I gave up my scholarship, remember?" "I remember," David said. "And that's exactly why you should teach there. Those students need to hear your story. They need to understand that there are different paths to a meaningful life in music. Not everyone will be a concert pianist, but everyone can find a way to keep music in their lives. You're living proof of that." Marcus said he would think about it. The idea scared him but also excited him. Teaching at a conservatory, him? A construction worker who played piano on the side? But then again, that was the point, wasn't it? He was not just a construction worker. He was not just a pianist. He was both. He was everything that had made him who he was. That night, Marcus called his sister Linda. He told her about David's offer, about everything that had been happening. "Mom would be so proud," Linda said, her voice emotional. "You know what she told me before she died? She said her biggest regret was that you gave up music for us. She said she wished she could have given you both things. But she did," Marcus said, finally understanding. "She taught me that love means sacrifice. She taught me that family comes first. Those lessons made me who I am. I wouldn't be the teacher I am now, the person I am now, without making that choice at 18. I don't regret it anymore, Linda, I really don't." "That's beautiful, Marcus," Linda said through tears. "And now you get to teach other kids like you. Kids who need to know that dreams can wait, that sacrifices matter, that there's no single path to happiness." A few weeks later, Marcus got a call that changed everything again. It was a producer from a national morning talk show. They wanted him to come on the show and talk about his story. They wanted him to perform on live television. Marcus's first instinct was to say no. National television? Millions of people watching. That was too much. He was just a guy from a small city. Just someone living his life. But then he thought about that janitor who had gone back to school because of his story. He thought about his students, about his crew, about all the people who had told him that his story gave them hope. Maybe his story could reach even more people. Maybe someone out there needed to hear that it was never too late, that giving up a dream didn't mean losing it forever, that you could build a beautiful life even when things didn't go according to plan. Marcus said yes to the talk show. The day of the television appearance, Marcus was more nervous than he had been at the gala. This was different. This wasn't his community supporting him. This was the whole country watching. His crew took the day off to watch the show together at a sports bar. His daughter came home from college. His sister and her family gathered around their television. Marcus sat in the green room backstage, wearing the same borrowed tuxedo from the gala, waiting for his segment. His hands were sweating. A production assistant came to get him. "Mr. Chen, you're on in 2 minutes." Marcus walked onto the set. The host, a friendly woman named Jennifer, greeted him warmly. The audience applauded. The bright lights made it hard to see, but Marcus could feel hundreds of people watching from the studio audience, plus cameras broadcasting to millions more. Jennifer asked Marcus about his story. He told it as simply as he could. The scholarship he gave up. The 24 years of construction work. The moment at the piano that changed everything. He talked about his mother, his wife, his daughter. He talked about his crew and his students. "What do you want people to take away from your story?" Jennifer asked. Marcus thought carefully before answering. "I want people to know that sacrifice is beautiful, but it doesn't have to be permanent. I want them to know that you can be more than one thing. I want them to know it's never too late to come back to who you really are." Then Marcus played. Right there on national television, he played the piece he had written for his mother. As he played, he forgot about the cameras and the audience. He just played, pouring everything into the music. When he finished, the audience gave him a standing ovation. Jennifer had tears in her eyes. "That was beautiful," she said. "Thank you for sharing your gift with us." After the show, Marcus's phone exploded with messages. His video from the show went viral, even bigger than the original construction site video. Within days, he had received hundreds of emails and letters from people all over the country. A 70-year-old woman wrote that she was going back to painting after 50 years. A middle-aged man wrote that he was finally going to open the bookstore he had always dreamed about. A young mother wrote that she was going to finish her degree, even though everyone told her it was too late with 3 kids. Marcus read every letter. Each one reminded him why he had said yes to sharing his story. It wasn't about him anymore. It was about giving people permission to dream again. One Saturday morning, Marcus was teaching at the Arts Center when he noticed a man watching from the doorway. The man was in his 60s, wearing work clothes like he had come straight from a job. After the lesson ended, the man approached Marcus. "Mr. Chen, I'm Tom Bradley. I'm a plumber. I saw your story on TV and I wanted to meet you." He paused, looking emotional. "I used to play saxophone. I was pretty good, actually. But I gave it up 40 years ago when my first kid was born. I needed to make money, support my family. I sold my saxophone to pay for baby supplies." He wiped his eyes. "Watching you play that morning, hearing your story, it made me realize I don't have to be done. I'm 62. I could still have 20, 30 years ahead of me. So I bought a used saxophone last week. I've been playing every night and my wife says it's the happiest she's seen me in years." Tom shook Marcus's hand with both of his own. "Thank you for reminding me that it's not over until it's over." After Tom left, Marcus sat at the piano for a moment. This was what it was all about. Not fame or recognition or viral videos. This. One person at a time, remembering who they were, coming back to the things they loved. That evening, Marcus went home to his small house. Sarah was visiting for the weekend. They made dinner together, and afterward, Marcus taught her a new piece on the piano. She was getting better every week, practicing faithfully at college. "Dad," Sarah said as they played together, "I'm thinking about changing my major. I'm studying business right now because it seemed practical, but I think I want to study music education. I want to teach kids like you do." Marcus looked at his daughter with pride. "You should do what makes you happy." "You taught me that," Sarah said. "You taught me that we don't have to choose between practical and passionate. We can find a way to have both." Later that night, Marcus sat on his front porch with a cup of coffee, looking up at the stars. He thought about his journey. From that 7-year-old boy with a cheap keyboard, to the 18-year-old who gave up his scholarship, to the 42-year-old who found his way back. He thought about his mother, how she would have loved to see this. She had always believed in him, even when he stopped believing in himself. She had taught him that love meant sacrifice, but she had also taught him that dreams were worth keeping alive. Monday morning, Marcus showed up at the construction site in his work boots and tool belt, ready for another week. His crew greeted him with their usual jokes and friendly insults. To them, he was still just Marcus, their foreman, the guy who worked harder than anyone else. But Marcus knew the truth now. He was not just a construction worker. He was not just a pianist. He was not just a teacher or a father or a friend. He was all of these things. He was complex and complete and finally whole. As Marcus picked up his hammer and got to work, he hummed a Chopin nocturne. Joey heard it and grinned. "Thinking about music already, boss?" "Always," Marcus said with a smile. Always, because that was the truth. The music had never left him. It had just been waiting, patient and quiet for the right moment to come back. And when it did, it brought with it something even more valuable than applause or recognition. It brought him back to himself. Marcus Chen, construction foreman and pianist, teacher and student, dreamer and builder, had finally learned the most important lesson of all. You don't have to be just one thing. You can be everything you are all at once. And that is enough. That is more than enough. That is everything. The sun rose higher over the construction site, another beautiful day beginning. Marcus and his crew built things, solid things, practical things, necessary things. But Marcus also knew that when evening came, he would sit down at his piano and build something else entirely. Something you couldn't see or touch, but something just as real and just as important. He would build music. He would build hope. He would build proof that it's never too late to come home to yourself. And that, Marcus thought as he hammered nails into wood under the morning sun, was the best thing he had ever built in his entire life.